In June 2019, cops in Memphis, Tennessee shot and killed a black man and the community rioted. It needs to be said that liberals, African Americans, and the media are all overwhelmingly reflexive in their outrage whenever this type of story comes out. There is apparently no conceivable situation wherein a dangerous criminal who is posing an imminent threat to the lives of innocent people can be shot by police officers, not if they're black. I saw a story in Portland this week about a guy who had taken a woman hostage and had a knife at her throat when the police shot him. And reading that headline, my very first thought was, if he's black, there's going to be riots in downtown. Thankfully, he was a white guy, but I think it says a lot about where we're at, that even a knife at someone's throat wouldn't be enough of a reason for a lot of people to condone the police bringing the situation to an end and saving an innocent life. I don't trust the media or politicians to be able to suss out what's a reasonable use of force and what's questionable anymore. Ask yourself, do you? Brandon Weber was a 20-year-old wannabe thug with 3 kids, a 1-year-old, a 3-month-old, and a 1-month-old. So he's another Father of the Year candidate. Hint, hint, if you didn't catch that, a woman can only get pregnant at most every 9 months, so he knocked up at least 2 different women in a very short amount of time. On June 3rd, Brandon met with a guy he found on Facebook who was selling his car. While test driving it, Brandon told the owner to get out of the car and then shot him 5 times at point-blank range. Thankfully, Brandon's victim survived. The U.S. Marshals tracked down Brandon after 5 days and being positively identified by his victim and tried to arrest him at his home. Brandon then got into his stolen car and repeatedly rammed it into police vehicles. Then he got out of the stolen car with a weapon in hand. No news reports say what the weapon was, but it's completely irrelevant. This guy wasn't interested in not resisting arrest, and the marshals shot and killed him. Activist Pamela Moses, founder of the Memphis Black Lives Matter chapter and a candidate for mayor, says that she believes police should have responded more responsibly. They shot and killed someone while executing a warrant. They were supposed to be trained to apprehend without deadly force, but when it comes to us, we always have to die. I'm from the hood. I've seen warrants executed 100 times. I don't remember people getting shot and killed for resisting. He was a boy. Not even 25. If you can't handle a boy without killing him, you're not properly trained, she says. The community right now is angry and traumatized. They just saw someone who looks just like them killed for no reason. They're not just rioting, they're traumatized. And riot they did. Bricks and rocks were hurled by a crowd, injuring 36 police officers, hospitalizing several of those. I want to show you a video Brandon posted on Facebook Live shortly before his death. Take a look at this fine, upstanding citizen.
Bitch ass police fucking up a nigga day. They some hoes. Big Jill come ride me in a minute. Oh really, I'm finna pull back up. Y'all got the hood out. What's up, Slump? Man, these folks hot in the hood. Man, they bullshit. Somebody, he just humped his fire at me. The police. Oh God, look at these bitches. Don't ride past me. You got to kid me, You gonna have to kid me, I ain't even gonna lie, I'm gonna do that ass so bad that it pinned off. It be so funny seeing them bitches. And I'm gonna pull out so they can see me. They cannot kill me. They wanna be me. I'm the young nigga. Yeah, diamond, hit her, they BB. Yeah, these bitches out I got in the TV. I go some, bitches, they hate, they wanna be me. Yeah, these niggas, they hate, they can't see me. Yeah.
Now watch this clip of a panel of liberals on the Daily Blast show discussing this story, and tell me if they're living on the same fucking planet as I am.
I would love to hear what you think about it.
I'm confused on this one, and you know I'm really anti-guns and even the police being armed, but maybe I'm being naive, but in this situation, I really don't understand what the issue is. This is a man he had a warrant out for his arrest. He rammed into a police officer's car multiple times and then pulled out a weapon. So when I've seen other people being shot before, like there was a woman a few weeks ago that we played that was on the floor and she was shot, I was really upset about that. But in this situation, I don't see what the issue is.
What do you mean you don't see what the issue is?
Go ahead.
I don't get it. What do you mean? Do you have some sort of eyewitness testimony? Do you have cell phone footage of what happened? All you have is what they're saying, and we've seen in the past how police officers or law enforcement can go ahead and hide the truth when it comes to certain things.
But why riot if you don't know the answer either?
Well, because people are tired, Tori.
Yes.
They're tired of it.
Amen.
They are absolutely the only way. We don't do stories on a white person getting shot and killed.
Listen, people are sick and tired of black men. In this case, it is not an unarmed young black man being killed by police.
Absolutely.
So let's back backtrack a little bit here, okay? So I'm not condoning the riots. I'm not condoning them at all, but there's a lot of upset and a lot of frustration. So this young man, Brandon Weber, so they're looking for answers. The community's looking for answers because they hear warrants for his arrest. I looked up those arrests. I went through his criminal history. Most of them are traffic offenses. Yes, there is one about brandishing, not a weapon, I'm sorry, paraphernalia, so drug paraphernalia. Does that warrant you being shot 16 to 20 times? I'm not saying it's okay for him to pull out a rifle by any means, shape, or form, but again, does that warrant being shot 16 to 20 times?
No.
In front of your home, in front of your family. I think what they're also taking issue with is initially when all those reports went out, they branded him as a monster. The pictures that they showed of him were with guns and money. Again, I'm not condoning that. That's not okay. But there were no photos of him holding his newborn baby. There were no photos of him with his cap and gown on and his diploma because he's a high school graduate. There are no photos of him in college because he's also in college right now. So I think where the upset's coming from is this portrayal of him being a gangster or a thug, and I don't even like using that word, but that's what the media is calling him when they forget that he's also a father, a graduate, and a college student. So this is a much more nuanced situation. We got to have duality of thought here. I'm not saying that the police officers are wrong. I'm not saying that he's wrong, but I am saying that we can do better.
I think I agree with Sam completely.
I'm pissed off right now. I really am.
You see? It wasn't his fault. Why are people portraying this sweet high school graduate, father of 3, by at least 2 different baby mamas, as some kind of bad guy? Notice how none of the people on this panel mentioned that he had attempted to rob and murder a guy by shooting him 5 times a few days previously. He was young and black. Don't the police know that they're supposed to taser someone who's brandishing a weapon at them after trying to kill them with his car several times? Why didn't they just talk to him? Maybe he wanted to be the first liberal to have an honest discussion about race in this country. Or maybe it's time for us reasonable people to stand up and tell his family that they should be ashamed of how they raised him. Maybe it's time for us to tell his girlfriends that fucking him makes them stupid whores who will no doubt raise equally disappointing children.
Well, Brandon Weber's family gathered outside the home Thursday. His friends met in front of Central High School to talk about the tragedy. Johnson was the father of 3, a 1-year-old, a 3-month-old, and his youngest child was born yesterday. He'd hoped to be a well-known rapper someday.
This man had a heart of gold. He made sure everybody was okay.
You knew if you needed anything, you could call Brandon. You know, if you needed to talk, you could call Brandon.
Well, friends portray him one way. On social media, Weber is seen flashing money, guns, and gang signs.
What I tell y'all, more in the motivation, right? Let me show you.
There are videos of him doing drugs and telling people how to roll up weed. Friends dismiss that.
Everybody has 2 sides to them, but that doesn't mean he has a bad side. We all know the good Brandon. We don't know a bad Brandon.
Maybe local politicians could go beyond just telling would-be rioters to wait until after the facts come out. Maybe, just maybe, they could be a bit sterner and say, if you riot for this piece of shit, I'm telling the police to arrest everyone for the slightest infraction who shows up, and I'll see that they throw the book at you. Yes, black Americans historically have been treated terribly, but that has nothing to do with how the U.S. Marshals handled trying to arrest this kid. Stop and use your heads, for God's sakes. Spend 20 seconds of research before you pick up a fucking brick. Lastly, I have to say, there's nothing more depressing than when I see a mother of a black criminal talking about her son as if they were an angel. That they can't believe he would ever do something like this. That he was a good boy. That he had a good side and it was society that screwed him up. Most of my fellow reasonable people just roll our eyes at this kind of shameless lack of personal accountability. But imagine for a minute that they weren't just delusional, coached, or lying. Imagine if by the standards of everyone around the dead guy, he actually was the most innocent. What would that say about the rest of the community?
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Hi guys, Media Shadow here. I'm trying to grow the channel and hopefully get more than 1 video out a week. So if you like what you've seen, please give me a like, subscribe, share, or drop me some coin on Patreon. I've left a link in the description of the video. Thanks! Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go take care of this boner.